Yo, what's happening YouTube? My name's Jamie, and today I'm back with something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a deck profile video on the Digimon TCG, and it's going to feature a deck that I won the locals with last night. It's based on someone else's deck, and I'm going to show you that right now first. And I'm going to go into why I think that it's such a great idea. The author is Numamon Gaming, and they're from New Zealand, and they came in first place with this themselves. And it's Gabubonds, but with quite a lot of evolution in. Oh, I wouldn't say a lot, but okay, let's dig into it. So you've got your Upamon, which is when attacking once per turn. If your opponent has a Digimon with no evolution sources, you draw one. Pretty basic, featured in a lot of blue decks, and it's just all around quite a good card. You get into which Gabumons that they're playing, and they've got the draw 1/3 drop. They've obviously got the main target for bonds. If you're playing Gabubonds, you want him to evolve on top of this card in particular because it gets free swings. Really good. They're playing 4 of the quite expensive promo. This card helps you search for your mat. If you need another target, you can get your Davis as well. Then from the new set from EX1, and this is the card that I think really starts to turbocharge the deck, and this is why all of this starts working so well. So this new X1 card, Gabumon, its inheritable is when you attack, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and you can add a Tamer or a blue Gabumon to your hand. And when I were playing this, I was putting my Gorillamon on top. If I were really stuck, I'd be putting my Lobomon on in an emergency just to start searching through my deck to get the mat if I needed it. And by the end of some of the games, I had around 17 cards in my hand, which when I was trying out the Pepsi variant, that just was not happening for me. And it became quite frustrating because I wasn't seeing the mat as much as I'd want. I definitely wasn't seeing the red pieces that I needed as much. Don't get me wrong, that deck's fantastic when you get everything together, and against decks like Security Control, and I think I'm tempted to say, is it Beelstarmon, the purple deck where they play the big card and it brings out option cards. Against that, it does really well. But yeah, I find this deck to be a lot more consistent, and with them adding in at first when I tested the deck out, and I might add, I only started playtesting this the night before the tournament. I were at first I thought, is it really necessary to have the 3 blockers in when you've got the new cards like Ice Wall in and a lot of deterrence? But when I actually got to play the deck in the tournament, I noticed how much this card helps because it's cheap and you're evolving onto it and you're getting some extra draw power, and for whatever reason they were just not getting deleted a lot, and it were stalling the game out for long enough so that I were getting into the big bonds and I were hitting them with Gorillamon and Gabumon and drawing, quite frequently. And as I say, this is getting limited soon, so you can't really rely on it too much, I guess, going forward. But for now, 3 of these in your deck is just brutal. They're hitting it in security and losing 2 memory, which I found, I think in 2 of my games, it ended their turns, which meant that I just went on to winning the next turn. Really good. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll show you the version that I played, which, as I say, is directly, it's this deck, make no mistake about it, but I've done a little bit of a twist because of the locals that I play at. There's some prominent Rookie Rush players, and I really needed some extra defense. And what I decided to go with in the end is, oh, and I don't have a 4th Gabumon promo, and I think they're really expensive now, so I probably won't be doing that. Instead, what I did was I lessened it down by the 1, and I didn't have another blue memory, so that featured heavily in why I had to change the deck a little bit. And instead, I went with 2 Mechanarimon, and wow, what a card. If I was stuck to play for anything on turn 1 and I had this in my hand, put it straight down. More often than not, it spent the entire game just sat there. helping me. The matchup against Rookie Rush, it stalled them so long because they didn't see the Spiral Masquerade, and I wasn't hitting their security. It meant that I wasn't hitting Wyvern's Breath and things, and they weren't getting rid of it. So really nice games for like me. But yeah, I think that if you're looking to play a Gabumon Bonds of Friendship deck and you're a little bit stuck, this is the one to go with. It's fantastic. Even this card, when I first started playtesting, I wasn't sure if this would be any good, but then it dawned on me. It's inheritable. It's not just your turn, where if you've got 8 cards or more in your hand, which I previously said, could have up to 17 cards in my hand, and you get plus 1k on both turns, which means your Gorillamon's at 7k, and it's going over the top of 5 and 6k blockers and Mechanarimon if they've got it, which players did at the locals. And yeah, defensively, it means that if you put a Koalamon on top of it, it means that it's a 6k blocker now. Obviously, you can't put that on top of it, but yeah, really solid deck profile that I think that a lot of people are going to start playing now because it's so consistent. You're seeing Matt frequently at the beginning of the game. You're defensively sound, and if you like the other guy's version of the deck, but you yourself are running into problems with decks like Rookie Rush or aggressive players, I would really recommend putting the Mechanarimon in. I was worried. I did it at spur of the moment, just right before the tournament started. I thought, oh, do I really want to do this? Do I hate the Rookie Rush player that much? Which I'm joking, he's a really good friend of mine. But yeah, I just put it in and it didn't clog up my hand at all. It were really helpful. I felt like 2 memory boosts were enough. I had the Vulcan's Hammer, or Hammer Spark, because I don't know why it's called Vulcan's Hammer here, but yeah. I had these frequently in my hand, because as I say, you draw so much. You have everything that you can possibly want in your deck, in your hand, half of the time. I had Lobomons for days, so whenever I wanted to go for game, I'd go to Gabubonds, usually on top of the one that lets you swing 3 times, but not necessarily. If I were in a bit of an emergency situation, I could go onto any of them, clear the board, get them down to 1 and 2, and I'd just start evolving Lobomons onto the top of my Mats and my Davises, and I'd swing for game. At the very least, I'd make it so that the next turn were going to be very hard for them to come back from, and then I'd go for game after. Really solid deck, highly recommend it. And yeah, so thank you for listening. I'm very new to this, so I'm sorry if I skipped over a lot of the cards. I'm assuming that people that are going to be watching this are not necessarily new to the game, but they're looking for a Gabumon Bonds of Friendship deck to play, and one that or that other players would recommend, and that's what I were aiming for this video to be. But if people would like me to go into more depth on the cards and the interactions and how I was using the deck, I'd be more than happy to do that, because I've actually found this to be quite a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you for listening, and while I'm here, if you're into comic books or you'd like to try, I actually create my own comic books with an artist called Neriria and Archday as the editor, and we're releasing a title called B-Mecha soon, and it's big robots versus big monsters, mecha versus kaiju. I think you guys would really like it, and if you fancy checking it out when it launches, you can just hit the notify button on Kickstarter. Also, if you fancy following me on social media, you can hit me up on Twitter at JamieMeWrites. And you can also see my Instagram here, where you can look at some of the pictures. There's my prize support from last night. Got some really good cards out of that. I'll maybe go into that later as well. But yeah, at JamieMeWrites again. And thank you so much for listening. See you soon. Bye.